When you think of games with good combat, what comes to mind? You may think of games like Sekiro with Shadows Die Twice, with its combat being very mechanical, with animation so detailed that other games just don't have. Or you may think about like a fast-paced game like Ultra Kill, with its visual flair filling up the screen. Or maybe you thought about the experience as fighting like a literal god of war, shifting through weapons like a Leviathan axe or a spear with the power of duplication. Like, look at this gameplay, it's like a movie, oh my god. Okay, but like in The Last of Us Part 2, you can make a silencer out of a bottle. The Last of Us Part 2 is never remembered for its combat. Its legacy is usually placed upon its characters, music, plot points, and dicey decisions that were made about the story. But I think the combat should be talked about, because for a game that's about killing is bad, the killing is really fun. Okay, listen, I personally don't think that the game's about killing is bad, because it's not. But you get the point. So what makes the combat in this game so fun to play around with? Let's talk about the mechanics that were introduced in part 1. The combat you have at your disposal is long-range weaponry, melee weapons, throwable items, and your fists. You're able to play as Ellie later in the story, but I just don't recommend trying to fight people. But the story is focused on survival and how scarce your resources are. You are forced to use whatever you have at your disposal, due to the fact that resources can run out quick. Maybe you used too many bullets in your last encounter, and now you're faced with a larger group of enemies, and all you have is a bottle and a bomb, which seems like kind of an impossible situation. You don't have enough bullets for how many heads you need to click. But if you're able to play smart, you might leave this encounter unscathed. Any throwable item you have can be used to make sound in a different location. This will attract enemies to that area, which, don't get me wrong, is good for stealth, but I have a whole video about that, so this is only about combat. And to play more aggressively, you have to play smart, because if you leave yourself too vulnerable, you're able to play this smart by throwing your items at enemies to temporarily stun them, so you can follow it up by taking them out, or you can use them as a human shield. But do you see how many options you had in just that one interaction? If you didn't throw that first item, there would have been so many other interactions you would have just had. You get to pick between causing distraction or taking head-on fights. The various decisions you have to make this game so much more replayable, because each encounter is slightly different. Like, maybe an enemy isn't in the same place as it was last time, or maybe someone didn't act the same way as they did last time. Now, the problem I have with The Last of Us Part 1's combat is that the gameplay just feels too stiff. Not only is Joel an old man, so he can't be as quick and nimble, but the actual hand-to-hand combat just feels too stiff. Don't get me wrong though, Joel's fists are nothing to be messed with. It's nice to see all the different ways this guy can punch people into a pulp. And while he's strong, the gameplay feels too mashed, and it leaves the player too vulnerable for enemies to get an easy shot at. However, this problem was easily solved in the sequel by adding a dodge ability. When you input the command to dodge, your character will quickly move out the way of any incoming attacks. You're also able to pick which direction you want to dodge in, but oh my god, this move changes everything. Melee fights now become more fun and addicting to play. Now having attacks you need to dodge in time while you struggle to throw out your own attacks. This addition also helps with group attacks. Now it's not a sloppy dog pile fight, but now it's more like trying to dodge each attack while still trying to hit every single enemy. And each enemy changes how you're supposed to tackle the challenge. Clickers will kill you the moment they get their hands on you. Runners and humans will try to fight you face to face with their hands or weapons. Stalkers will, well, stalk you until they have to jump on you. These guys are actually pretty smart because they know that they're weaker than you, so when we try to attack them head on, they'll try to push you away instead of trying to attack you. And I don't even recommend trying to fight shamblers and bloaters within COVID range. The Last of Us Part 2 is able to expand on the formula of the first game, and one of the times it's able to show that is in the variation of attacks there are. The way you attack does not change, you only attack using the square button. In the first game, Joel was able to pick up different weapons, from wooden planks to baseball bats to hatchets and some other weapon. And the gameplay will stay mostly the same, and some weapons are able to do more damage than others. The game keeps itself from being stale by constantly having different animations for different attacks, and The Last of Us Part 2 builds on that completely. You now play as two different characters. From this diva with a switchblade to this Hulk who fights similarly to Joel due to the fact that she fights with her fists. Both of these characters are able to have different combos that are really fun to fight with and just admire. But these are not just for show. These are able to lead up into different situations. Punching your way through enemies will end with a nice little zoom-in finisher. These finishers are able to help get the player immersed due to 3 main factors. 1. These are just overall stylish. It's not only fun to look at, but very satisfying. Hey, this generation loves its eye candy, so like, give them a little something. 2. These have a lot of different animations for specific variations for what enemy you're fighting, what weapon you're holding, and where you and your enemy are placed. And 3. While these finishers do not change the gameplay, there are still variations of combos your character performs. You're able to stun your enemy instead of quickly finishing them off. And you have a choice to strike to finish them, or you can grab them to use them as a human shield. And this choice itself leads itself into whole other options, in which you choose what decision to make next based on how many resources you have and what situation you're in. Like now you're able to defend yourself against multiple enemies, because now when enemies shoot at you, they're just gonna shoot their teammate. Now how does the story link with the gameplay? The world of The Last of Us is built on the lack of resources. With the setting being in a post-apocalyptic world, not only does the story tell us this, but the gameplay is able to show us this. You spend most of your time playing this game looking for resources that you can use to your advantage. You can find different things like blades, alcohol, rags, and a bit more. And with these, you're able to craft different tools like medkits, molotovs, and literal bombs. The thing is though, most of your craftable tools will use the same resources as other tools. Based on your situation, the game forces you to make a decision. Will you use the last of your resources to make a medkit, or will you tough it out and make a Molotov or a pipe bomb? The choice is yours. This just goes to show how important resource management is. There were also a bunch of quality life changes from part 1 to part 2 that drastically improves the game. For example, when you shoot a clicker in its head, you then have an option to strike it down. However, in part 1, if you try to do the same, you'll be met with... Yeah, that's kind of disappointing, right? Also, unrelated, look at this. Look at this. Look, yeah, look at that. When it comes to the gameplay flow of this game, The Last of Us 2 just makes this river flow so much smoother. Because things like that just make sense. Something I've noticed with part 2 is there is a lot of dismembering. Depending on where you shoot, the bullet will directly affect the enemy's body. This would normally just add a bullet hole with some blood effects, and the enemy will just fall to the ground. But in this game, body parts will fly off as the person screams their heart out, as you watch blood just spew out of the missing body part. It's really horrific just watching them die out. Like, oh my god, are you okay? Do you need an ice pack? But to semi-combine these two facts, I find it really fun shooting people's legs off and running up and striking. I literally don't know how to explain it, but the two-step process of shooting and then striking, I don't know, it's just, I guess it's fun. It's probably also due to the previous point I made with the different kill animations. I like seeing all of them. It makes it not only fun, but satisfying. The sound design is a key ingredient that could make or break how satisfying a game can be. And The Last of Us Part 2 does not disappoint. Your attacks feel weighty and sound like they carry force behind them. Not only is your character grunting with every attack, the enemy is actively reacting to your attacks with the clean Swiss sound of your knife digging into your opponent. Every item is a joy to wield because you're constantly rewarded with bang bang boom bam bang. Somehow this game manages to make the act of murder genuinely exciting. And I think it helps due to the fact that the AI feels realistic. There's a problem with some games that just have stupid AI. There's no way someone had to code this. But not in this game. When an enemy finds you, they will alert their squad as soon as possible. And if they have eyes on you, this will start an all-out brawl. Groups of enemies will either shoot at you, chase you down with a sledgehammer, or now you'll have to deal with a lot of different types of infected. or even standard enemies, but just with different weapons. You're forced to play all these interactions differently. For example, I am a lot more comfortable running into a pack of runners head-on than a group of people with guns. The fun part about this game, running into people with guns isn't that really bad of an idea, only if you're smart. Sure, you can play stealthy, but that's boring. Actually, no, it's not. It's actually kind of really fun. I don't know why I said that. It's good for resources, and overall, the smart option. But the smart option isn't always the best option. Let me show you what I mean. I start this run off by chucking a glass bottle at this runner. Then I'm rushing to line up the shot for the next runner in my path. And after taking the shot, I quickly run to the other side of the room. A runner tries to swing at me, but I weave. It's a bink. Next, I hear a clicker preparing to charge at me, so I get my gun out and shoot it in the head, and then I cut it open with the shiv, as his friend wanted to show me his cool parkour skills. And after perfectly dodging his two oncoming attacks, I swiftly take him out as I get ready for the shambler nearby. I miss its head here, so I back off to get a better shot, as it falls all over me, and in response, I shoot him 4 times. Nice. The Last of Us Part 2 is able to combine so many different gaming elements, like resource management, physical combat, and third-person shooting to make a combat system overall so enjoyable and fun to come back to. This game is still able to build off from what came before it, and it's able to add a lot of little changes that impact the game so drastically. This game is able to be as mechanically interesting as a game like God of War, where you're swinging weapons and whoa, and then you spit it, wow! Sparks and effects flying everywhere across the screen. Whoa, oh my god, it's like a movie, it's so cool! But yeah, I still think the game where you're able to sneak attack enemies from the top of a roof is a bit more fun.